Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Imizizi Conversations. Always happy to have you and you to have me. It's Mponeng from Imizizi. I am here today with Janet Featherstone.
Thank you.
Good the business here. Whisperer.
Thank you.
I would like you to introduce yourself.
Yeah. So hi everyone. My name's Janet Featherstone. I am a coach, a lecturer, and a facilitator. And I've been working with Yolisa and Mponeng for probably now about 6 months. And Mponeng really kindly called me the business whisperer. And that stuck, and I'm sticking with it, and I'm owning it. So I have a business called Integrate Business. And through that, I really focus on helping successful business owners magnify their time and multiply their results. And that's the work that we've been doing together.
That is like a chunk there.
It is.
It is.
It took me a while to get my teeth around that.
So the conversation today is business coaching, the art of magnifying your time to multiply results, right? And I love how you said that, but I actually wanted to find out, it's such a big promise to make. When did you feel comfortable that you could actually, before we even get to what business coaching is, when did you feel comfortable that you can actually say to a person, I will make you successful by doing these things for you?
So my background, and if somebody had told me that I would be this when I was a youngster, I would have said you've lost your mind, right? But I'm actually an academic.
Oh.
I do a huge amount of work for Gibbs Business School, which is one of the top, if not the top, African business school, and is within the top 50 business schools in the world. So I've learned through that process to look for rigor in what it is that I've done. So through my own studies, which were primarily a disaster until I learned the system, I really recognized that if you just do the basics right, success actually is not complicated, right? I always say success actually isn't a secret, it's a system. And if you've got the system that can take you to that success, then the road actually becomes quite easy. So it's simple things like, we know that 10 minutes of planning a day can buy you literally an hour in terms of productivity. So if you just think about that, if you plan for 10 minutes for 5 days in a row, that buys you 5 hours.
It's that consistency though, and it's the starting. It's the starting.
Yes.
So sorry, because I read somewhere that business coaching is for executives and business owners who want to advance themselves in their businesses, right?
Yeah.
So for me, one of the things that I realized about that is, and I say this from experience. So when Yolisa came to me, it's like, oh, I met Janet. You know, she was, I think you were a mentor when she was doing her studies at Gibbs, right? And she was like, oh, she thinks she wants to do business coaching with us. I think it would be fantastic. I'm like, but what is she going to tell us? To plan better? We know this, you know? So I sat there and I was like, but how do you convince people? Besides the big promise, how do you convince people that in my already what I think is a busy day, because we think we're busy.
You are busy. Let's be real.
Yes. But busy with non-productive things, right? In my not already busy day and in the little money that I'm looking at, making sure that I'm managing it properly, how do you convince people that I actually will make you better?
So maybe let me just take a step back and give you the definition of coaching, right? So there's an international coaching body which is called the International Coach Federation, and they have a definition of coaching which goes something like, coaching is a partnership between people that is about thinking and creatively solving problems so that you reach your own full potential. So I would never try and convince you of anything because that's pointless, right? But through a process of self-evaluation and recognizing your own potential, which is a key component of coaching, you yourself will go, you know what, I can do better. I want to do better. And we know that if you go to gym with a personal trainer or you go to Weight Watchers and you know you're going to get weighed, you'll know by now when you're having a session with me, you don't want to arrive at the session and go, you know what, I haven't done a thing.
Didn't think about this one. Yes.
So there's a lot of accountability that's built into the coaching process. And that's what helps somebody go, wow, I think I can do this, and then actually see themselves do it. And that's the beauty of coaching.
Why did you go that route? Why did you go coaching?
I fell into it, to be honest. So I had always imagined that I would have a corporate career. And in fact, I had a very successful corporate career. I was on the board of a listed organization in the telco sector by the age of 30. And then I think when I got to, I think I was 37 when I finally quit. And I just thought, this actually isn't what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. But I left the organization in September. And I thought, I'll find something else in the new year. But September, I mean, it was a values. What's the word I'm looking for? I recognized that my values and the values of the organization I worked for were never going to meet.
Okay.
And that was, I literally quit on the spot. I literally said, that's it, I'm out of here. And I was fortunate that I could do that. So I had the financial means to see me through for a couple of months, and so I was quite comfortable in that decision. But I'm a bit of a hyper personality, and by October I was just bored. And I was like, okay, let me go and find something that I can entertain myself with for a couple of months. And I found coaching. And this was back in 2008, so it was very new. And I looked for countries that really were amazing at coaching, and that was Australia and America. So I chose a company that was head officed in Australia but practiced in the US. So all of my coaching was done online, which has served me really well through COVID. And after maybe the first 2 or 3 classes, I was like, I quite like this.
This is where I
think I
go.
might be doing this for a while. So I fell into it. It was not intentional.
That is so beautiful. You know, I love those stories. I love the stories where people actually just, put everything behind it. Like, this, I know for a fact this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
But then the thing that you wanted to do kind of falls into your lap.
Yes.
And you do it so well.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
It's very kind.
No, you do. And you say you're hyper, but I find you've got this very calm thing about you when you're having the discussions with us. And I wanted to find out, is that the way that you go with most of your clients? Do you show up based on who they are in how you help them?
I think the biggest gift we can give anybody is to be fully present with them. And I think as a coach, your work is to get your own stuff out of the way. So it doesn't matter what's happened before you come into a coaching session. You need to just focus on being fully present with that person. And I think when you are fully present with them, there's something magic. There's something that happens between people. And you find yourself matching their energy, their pace. And I think that just happens when you bring yourself fully into the moment.
Which is, funny enough, I had a conversation 2 months ago about mindfulness. And the lady Angela I was talking to, she was talking about how we listen without the intention of listening. This pretend listen, this passive listening, and listening to a person requires so much focus and so much of yourself to be there, but also removing yourself from the conversation. Sorry, I babble.
You actually make 2 extremely relevant points. So the first one is I tune in so deeply to my clients that I've often caught them out when they lose presence with me. So all of a sudden something pops into their mind and they're like, I forgot to do this. And I can actually see that. I can see that they've kind of shifted gear. And I often ask, what's just happened? Because I can see something's changed and they're like, I can't believe you picked that up, right? But that's the gift of being fully present.
Yes.
And the second thing is as a coach, what you want to be quite careful about is not buying into the person's drama. So somebody can say to you, I've got this terrible boss, and this boss is just nasty and whatever. And you want to be careful not to kind of go, okay, your boss is terrible and your boss is nasty. You want to really kind of have an objective view with that to say, where's the evidence for that? What do you think's happening there? And you don't want to really buy into that, because then you support that. And you don't help your client then shift beyond that. So you've raised two very important things. No babbling.
How did you make the coaching then your own? So after you were coached and you learned, and I'm sure you got a few clients, how did you almost define it to be your own, to then be a service offering to your clients?
So I think coaching, even though coaches are process experts, so we don't need necessarily subject matter expertise, for me it just makes sense to work in something that I'm familiar with, right? So for me, having done my own MBA, it just seemed natural to work with people to help businesses do business better. And I also think my own struggles with productivity doing that MBA and just finally getting over the line, which took me hours and hours of effort, which maybe were not so necessary, but that process in and of itself has helped me help people kind of get through it.
So it's lessons learned was most of it.
It's the experience curve, right?
And just at high level, what are some of the things that you know, at a base, like a framework of the things that you take your clients through?
So the Greatness Strategies, which is the program that you guys have chosen, is really about how to accelerate business success. So it's a process that we go through for a year. So what we do is we first look at strategy, and strategy becomes more important the longer a business has been in business for. So if it's just at a startup level, strategy is not as critical. But if the business is starting to mature, strategy becomes an imperative. So it's really about what's your USP, you know, how are you positioning against competitors so that you become the go-to player in your sector. And once we've mastered that, we then look to personal mastery. So how are you showing up as you? And business can be all-consuming, we all know that. And it's what do you need for yourself in order for you to make your business successful?
I must say, sorry to disturb you.
Not at all.
But I must say the personal mastery bit caught me off guard when I started doing it with you, right? Because you still expect that because I'm doing business coaching, it's a personal mastery within business.
Yes.
You know? But when you were like, no, but we need to discuss you as a person, because you are not just in business. You've got other things that are happening in your life that then impact the way you show up in business. Or rather, sometimes it could be that what's happening in business is making you show up differently with family. And you know this, but one of the things was like, I want to do yoga with the kids. But I have been thinking about it for so long that I need to start making time to just do something that's just for us with the children. But things come up, and you know, and even the homeworks and okay, I'll do it next week. I'll do it. But when I have to be like now accountable again to someone else, as much as it's something I've always wanted to do, but if I have to come back and be like, oh shoot, Janet is going to ask me if I did yoga with the kids.
Yep.
And I quite appreciated that from the onset of thinking about business coaching as, but she'll just tell us, do this, have you done that? You know, it felt like it would be a textbook thing, to how real and integrated it is, and how business is impacted by the person themselves. I
mean, it is whole being wellness, isn't it? Right?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I disturbed you.
It's fine. No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. So then the next thing is about personal productivity. And that is where I share my proprietary 7-step system, and I really help people accelerate their personal results. So as a leader, if you are the bottleneck in your business is not going to get to the level of success that it needs to get to. So it's really important that we look at you and how you're operating as a leader. And we then shift into leadership. So this is not about how you're doing, but this is now how you're being. So what's your leadership style? See, this is what you have to look forward to.
No, I'm just like, sure. Yeah.
So what's your leadership style? How has that shifted now that we're in a more remote context? How are your people perceiving you? So there's an option there to do a 360, which is really sometimes an invaluable process. And then we shift into really your team, how your team is coherent and cohesive, because we deliver projects, we build businesses through others.
I'm having such heart palpitations. And it's mostly because I know how practical it can be. So as you're saying it, it sounds nice and you're like, oh, I can't wait to get into it. But like, I know the type of questions you ask. And I think the one thing people, which I hope you'll elaborate on, don't understand about business coaching is that you are almost probing the other person to reflect on themselves.
Yes. Yes.
Doesn't that require like some psychology? Shouldn't you have done like some, stuff like that? Because you like literally you ask you a difficult question and I sit there and I'm like, I don't know. How many times have you listened? I looked at you like, no, don't know.
So coaching and psychology are very different. And yes, you need to be very aware of a coach. As a coach, if you're hitting on something that needs deeper work.
Yeah.
So psychology is very focused on the past and kind of dealing with what's happened and processing what's happened.
Okay.
Coaching is very focused on the future and where you can get to. So coaching and therapy can actually run parallel, but therapists have incredible skill sets that coaches generally do not. And yes, as a coach, you want to be very cautious that you don't head into that territory which you're not trained for. So if we'll pick that up, we'll refer to a therapist to assist.
Which would be so easy for a person to actually, if you do not have the restraint to be like this, because it's quite a thin line, right? To the restraint to be like, I'm not gonna help you solve a problem that I'm not qualified to do. Yeah.
And the real, I'm going to say, red flag for that is the person's always going back into the past.
Okay.
Right? So the moment you see that as a coach, there's definitely something sitting there that needs to be dealt with. But in all of our coaching conversations, it's always future-based, right? It's always about what can we do, how can we position, how can we do. So it's future-focused.
Yes. I stopped you again. I hope
That's
you've got
okay.
a better memory than I.
It's my process, right? So I know. So then we look at, I've just covered briefly that we look at team cohesion and team team functioning and what it would look like, what needs to shift in order for the teams within the organization to be really high performing, cohesive, happy family that delivers, right? That's what we're looking for. Then we look at business visibility. I mean, you can have the most incredible offering, but if nobody knows you exist, nobody's going to purchase it. And that's visibility from an organizational point of view, but also from a leadership point of view. So you guys actually getting out there and becoming visible through things like these conversations. And then finally, it really is about lifelong learning and finally disruption. So what we then do is we look to how can we actually disrupt your business. So if I was coming in as a competitor and I was specifically targeting Imizizi, how would I put you out of business?
Okay.
And then we obviously, that then feeds back into strategy, and then we kind of keep circling through that process.
And the steps that you've mentioned, would they fit in every industry, every organization?
Yes.
But does that mean you need to know a little bit about the different industries for you to be able to assist those people?
No, because I follow a process, right? So I'm a process expert. So through a process of questioning and unpacking, you actually arrive at the answers for yourself.
That's why I was, yes.
You've come up with all the
Yeah,
solutions.
you're right. You it makes sense now when you're saying it's a partnership between two people, because you're almost like guiding.
Yes.
To get to a
Through questioning.
To get to a point.
Yes.
Very difficult questions. I might add.
For which I make no apology.
Very difficult questions, but I think I like the accountability of it, on self, on you and everyone else that we need to now interact with. And in terms of the team, do you think it would be worth it to involve the team, or do you think that as the leaders, the questions you give us and the way that we then interrogate ourselves will be enough to kind of push almost that coaching across to them?
So I think it depends again on context, right? So that would be a decision that you as the leaders would make. Absolutely no issue having some team sessions, but I think when you start, one of the greatest benefits I think about undergoing a coaching process is that you yourself start taking on a coaching approach. And I think from a team perspective, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Because now instead of telling, you're inviting curiosity, and you're enabling ownership. You know, and I think there's so much beauty that kind of results from that coaching process.
I like that. So it's just the coaching, you do that for Gibbs as well?
Yes, I do a lot of work for Gibbs.
All right. How do you do that for the studies that they go through?
So I guess one of the most common practices that we do, and I know you've done this, is delegates go through a program and they get a report called Insights. And Insights is basically a personality preference. And we help people understand that report, take meaningful insights from it, and make work of it.
Yeah.
So that they can bring their blind spots into conscious awareness, which makes them more effective leaders. So that's one example. I also do a lot of executive coaching. So for example, Vodacom, which is one of Gibbs's clients, has a bunch of people going through the first year of MBA, and we support them through that process.
It's nice.
Work doesn't stop, right? And now you've got this kind of layer of study on top.
Yeah.
And it's really just a supporting role there. But also a development role to help them become better leaders.
Yeah.
So, and I lecture at Gibbs as well.
I saw that you also do training. Because I actually want to understand how you kind of intertwined the training with the coaching, you know. And is it different in actual fact, like the way that you deliver it?
Yes. So when you're training, you're imparting knowledge. So you're literally saying to a person, this is how you do it. Gibbs has, obviously being a business school, is a more facilitated approach, but you're still delivering content. Whereas in coaching, you're following a process and you're helping self-discovery. So instead of telling you how to do it, I'm inviting you to figure out how to do it. And there's the difference.
Self-discovery. That should be part of your tagline somewhere. You know, because it's so important. I think as leaders, sometimes you do not realize how much of the self impacts the decisions that you make for the business and for other people. And how much you hinder sometimes progress because I did something a long time ago. It was called iceberg exercise.
Yes.
Do you know it?
I'm familiar with some of them.
Yeah.
Not sure if it's the exact one, but yeah.
So this one just it would speak about, at the very core, at the bottom of the iceberg, is who you are, your pure essence, and then as you go up, it's the now I'm forgetting the terms, but it's the stuff that's happened as you were growing up that have now made you become the person that you currently are.
Yep.
So at the tip of the iceberg is just what we're seeing as personality and behavior.
Yes.
But there's so much motivation and hurt and pain underneath. So if I now, as a manager, come across as, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, bitchy, and there's a lot about myself that has been motivated by how I have been in the past. And now I want to say to like a guy who looks at me and says, "Oh, you look pretty today." Don't say that to me because it's disrespectful. You know what I mean? Or you lead your team in a very hard way so that you can be taken seriously. There's a lot of self-discovery that would need to happen for you to actually start interacting with your team in a better way as who you actually really are, and a person that appreciate and work better with.
I think there's so much richness in what you've just said. You know, and again, just sharing my own corporate experience is I started my career in a very aggressive organization, and you mimic culture, right? So you kind of go, okay, well that's how the boss is, so therefore surely that's how I must be. And it served me in terms of my career progression, but it certainly didn't serve me in terms of my relationships. And I think you get that wisdom through age and through experience and through exposure, which thankfully I've had. But I think if you spoke to some of the people that worked for me when I was starting out, they would say she was terrible. She was bitchy. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty then of coaching, for example, because it holds up a mirror to you to say, you know, is this really you? Is it a response to something? Is there maybe a better response?
How do you deal, Janet, with say a very difficult, bitchy, or I am hard and I am this way, la la la, when you have to coach that person? Because again, as we've mentioned, the way that you coach is you ask a lot of questions and you want the person to actually reflect, but isn't there almost like a pushback with people like that who do not want to deal with themselves at the moment? How do you handle something like this? Is that then the thing that goes back to therapy? Because that still falls under you?
It could. No, it certainly could. Look, the first premise of coaching is that the person must want to change.
Okay.
And you do get people who are wholly uncoachable. They will basically say, "This is who I am, and I'm not changing." And then you literally need to say, "Great." You know, face the consequences then of that choice, because there will be consequences. But for somebody who wants to change, it's helping and supporting through that process. And I think, you know, we sit here as women that have been in corporate, and sometimes that's tough. And I think the mistake we make is that we think we are going to succeed through becoming masculine in corporate. And I think, again, there's some outstanding research that shows when women are on boards, organizations are more successful. And you ask why? Well, the answer is that women have a completely different approach. We think differently. And when we try and become masculine and aggressive, we lose the thing that is our edge. And I think now there's a shift. I think it's starting to happen. But I think women are starting to recognize we don't want to be in corporate acting as aggressive men. We want to be in corporate as the women that we are, being nurturers, you know, being supportive, being collaborative. Because I think
the point of diversity is the fact that I bring myself as myself, not mimic you and how you show up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's hard to stand apart.
Yeah.
But that's where your brilliance is.
Whew, it's a lot of work, eh?
But it's powerful work.
Yes. No, of course. So what would you say to a person who wants to be like a coach? What do they do? Where do they start?
There are hundreds, literally, of coaching programs internationally that you could choose from if that's what you want to do. But critically, make sure that it has accreditation. So you want to look for International Coaching Federation accreditation. And that really is just the mark of standard. If it's got that accreditation, you know that it's
a fair,
it's high standard. Yeah. And if you want to then become credentialed, so recognized as a professional coach with an International Coach Federation, you have to do that training. And any coaching hours that you attain after that training count. Any coaching hours before that training don't count. So that's why the first thing you've got to do is train. Get trained. Because then your coaching hours count. The benefit of experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. Do you have a question? Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Small businesses have budget constraint, and this sounds like it's so valuable for entrepreneurs. Does Janet have a package for small businesses, or are there organizations that can accommodate us?
So generally in coaching, that's a great question, because coaching often is reserved for C-suite, right? Because it is very expensive.
Yes.
But there are different formats of coaching. So for example, if somebody's on a shoestring budget, I would be happy to coach them via email. And that is at a significantly reduced price. Via email.
How?
So it is literally an accountability partnership, and you can unpack thoughts in writing once a week.
Wow.
And I'll give you the benefit of.
So you've thought about all of this. You want to go to WhatsApp soon? Like, WhatsApp me, voice note me.
Why not leverage technology, right?
Yeah.
It exists. And then also there's group coaching formats.
Okay.
And that's fun, because then you've got other businesses who are in very similar kind of processes to you. So not only are you learning from me as a coach and from yourself, you're learning from peers. And it just brings another dimension into the coaching process, which is wonderful.
I'm just thinking, actually, based off this question, there's a lot of these enterprise development programs that usually run. And if you were then to, but I remember then you said at the very beginning that coaching works better for businesses that have been in existence for longish. So you wouldn't do this for a new business?
You could,
like a baby?
But the approach would be different.
Okay.
So remember what you guys were like in startup. You know, if I was to sit with you for a morning on strategy, you would go, come on. We just need to get into execution. So,
we just need money.
Exactly. So the need is very different. So the process would be very different.
Okay.
So I think you would then look for a coach that helps startups.
Okay. All right. I hear you. Okay, cool. So it's possible, but it's just
Yes.
It's
a different approach. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What would you say are the top 3 important things one can implement or do practically in order to be productive?
So the first thing that I would say is you've got to know where you're going.
Okay.
Because if you are busy, you can say, I'm very productive. But are you doing the things that are going to move the needle? And that for me is the absolute number 1 criteria for productivity, right?
You have to know where you're going.
Know where you're going, and then figure out how you're going to get there. And third, I would say, and then put the discipline in to do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Because otherwise you can plan forever.
So let me, and I want to poke. So pretend I've never had a coaching session with you and I know nothing about nothing. When you say that, figure out how you're going to get there, right? I know a lot of people feel like if you're coaching me, tell me how I'm supposed to get there, you know? How do you deal with those perceptions and those people? Because then maybe they'll keep coming back to you over and over again, like, but I'm paying you to coach me. Tell me, guide me. How do I get there?
So in answer to that, I would say, and maybe now, think of a goal that you want, that you'd be happy to share. And tell me, let's imagine we're sitting on this very couch in 12 months' time, and you've done it.
Okay.
Tell me how you did it. Tell me that excitement.
The excitement. Of how I did it, or the excitement of the fact that I've gotten there?
Both.
Okay, I want to be a kids yoga instructor.
Yay.
Yeah. How I do it, I start practicing yoga personally. I then take classes for yoga with kids. I practice with my own kids.
Yeah.
I invite friends, kids to come along. Maybe have like a
like a
class once
party.
a month.
Awesome.
Have a yoga class once a month, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's your process.
Yeah, okay. I see.
You've got it.
I see.
And it's as simple as that. But for each person, it will be individual, right? I couldn't. How could I have told you that?
True. True.
But that's how easy it is.
But I mean, I think
find
most
it.
people always think in business because you've got the know-how almost, because you've been doing this for so long. I'm sure you've had a company that's similar to mine. I'm sure the steps that you can lead me and guide me. But I get it. I hear you.
Yeah. Look, again, I'm going to say success leaves clues, but each context is unique.
I love that.
And it's about that
Success
uniqueness.
leaves clues. I like that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, remember I was saying, like, success isn't a secret; it's a system, right? You just need to figure out what that system is.
Okay. And that is through the different steps that you take the people through.
You get people to do the right things more often, because there are things that move the needle and there are things that don't. And often,
it's that being able to say, this is urgent, this is important, this is urgent but not important.
Correct.
I could never actually kind of qualify that. Urgent, not important, because if it's urgent, it should be important.
not necessarily. So somebody can run in and say, I've got a birthday party tomorrow and I don't have a gift for anyone, right? That's urgent for them. In your world, is that important?
I hear you. Okay, I hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's actually being able to say, this is important, this is what's going to move the needle, these are the things that I need to do. So it really does come back to the person saying, I actually want to advance myself and I want to advance my business and I want to see the success.
Yes.
And then trailing that success across and
Yes.
saying, I did this on day one, on month one, and it worked.
And I also think the challenge we all have is we think success goes like that, right? Success.
We'd love
Success
it to go
is more like
this.
Okay.
We'd love to, just have a smooth sailing.
I mean, even better, it would be like exponential, right?
Yes.
But we know change is messy. So it's unlikely that somebody in month one is going to say, you know what, I nailed it and I did it. It's more like going to be, I started, I was doing really well and then the wheels fell off. And that's okay. Why did the wheels fall off? How do we stop them from falling off again? That's the beauty of coaching.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
And if people wanted to know more about you and what you do, where do they get you?
Probably the best place to go would be greatnessstrategies.com. And you can also look me up on LinkedIn at Janet Featherstone.
I think that you are still a fantastic business whisperer. I just keep saying this.
Thank you. and I'm owning that phrase. Thank you so much for giving it to me. It was such a powerful thing.
Yes, because I think not a lot of people, because you know what I realize is that, and I think that's why I wanted to talk to you, because a lot of people can say they're business coaches, but they're doing it just, for the sake of doing it. But there's a technique to getting a person to interrogate themselves and actually get results and want to see those things. I'm losing the English
manifest
word.
almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you do that so well.
Thank you.
That's why I was like, you're so calm in the way that you do it. It's not forceful.
But yeah, I mean, coaching should never be forceful because it's exploratory. It's about curiosity. It's about shifting. And shifting is a process. It's not an event.
I agree. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It was wonderful.
Oh, likewise.
Thank you again, guys, for joining us. It has been amazing. If you want to catch Janet, which I think everybody should, if you want a successful business and a successful self in the thingy, in life general, you said greatnessstrategies.com or LinkedIn. Thank you. We'll see you in another Imizizi conversation.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.